Hare Krishna. This is the last video segment of the Al Gore vs. Plato series. I have shown, or at least I've shown what I believe to be a literary parallel between Euripides' tragic play, the Bacchae, and Plato's most famous dialogue, the Republic. I was just summarizing it at the end of the last video when I got cut off at the very end. Just to finish my thought there, as Dionysus tricked Pentheus into dressing as a woman to go spy on what he believed would be a naked orgy among the women of Thebes who had been driven mad by the god. Mr. X is laughing, and it is funny. It's a weird thing. As Dionysus did that to Pentheus, so too in Book 5 of the Republic did Socrates trick his interlocutors, the young men he was conversing with, into imagining themselves as women and imagining in their minds naked men and women exercising together in the gymnasium and fighting among the fields. Dionysus took Pentheus dressed like a woman out to the field, put him on top of a pine tree. Mr. X is laughing, and we're going to let him speak in a second, where he was spotted by the crazy Bacchae of Dionysus, the Theban mad women. They tore him from the tree, and beginning with his own mother, who ripped his arm out of his body, they tore him into bits. And then she paraded back with his head on her thyrsus, her holy wand, and Dionysus then revealed himself, and the moral of the story is, you didn't believe I was a god, well now you know. In the Republic, Socrates tricks them into imagining their women, imagining these naked men and women exercising naked together, and then he tricks them into imagining themselves as philosopher kings, which is analogous to the way Pentheus was put up on top of this pine tree, the pinnacle to overlook this naked orgy he thought he was going to see. Similarly, the young men, Socrates puts them in the pinnacle of the position in society, the philosopher king, where they can oversee this incestuous, naked city, and incest is a part of it. The reproductive rights in this utopian city, it's inevitable that there will be occasionally incest, because no one is to know who their mother and father is, so that people won't have clannish ties to family, but rather accept the city and that part of the earth as their own. There are many parallels. I discuss them in detail in my thesis, which I invite you to read. You can locate it on my website, neomega.us. In one of these corners here, you can see the website. So that is the parallel between the Republic and the Bacchae. On the surface of the Republic, Socrates evicted tragic plays about lying and deceptive gods, the whole while luring them through the tragic play of the lying deceptive god Dionysus. The moral of the story is that the god is the union of all opposites, a playful prankster god, the personification of the spiritual sun, seen with the eye of the soul, recalling that Al Gore said the solution to Plato's theory of the soul, that the soul is separate from the body, which causes us to hate the earth, is to see God in every part of nature, in all the universe, bright shining as the sun with the mind's eye, a metaphor that he backs up with quantum physics, which I have discussed previously. So, Al Gore blames Plato's theory of the soul. It is very similar to Al Gore's own theory, in addition to which it gives us a deep insight into the workings of the mind of the god through this literary parallel. So that's my defense of Plato. He lured the young men into this utopian city where they thought reason would make them the philosopher king. And that's what Al Gore is pointing to, that Socrates taught us, or Plato through Socrates taught us, that human reason will create a just society, not faith in this bright shining God who's existent everywhere. And he's got a good point. The surface can be read that way, although even that can be argued. But the subtext completely inverts the meaning of the surface, showing the complementary relationship between the surface and the subtext, which is itself a model, I argue in my thesis, of the nature of the mind, conscious and unconscious, inconceivably simultaneously both, which is reflected in the particle-wave paradox of the photon, which is a reflection of the soul, spark emanating from the spiritual sun. That in a nutshell is my defense of Plato. Mr. X, how many minutes do we have? We have 5 minutes. Do you have any questions for the confounded viewers who don't know what the hell I was rambling about this whole time? You've heard it all. What do you say? Do you understand what Al Gore was saying about Plato and what I'm trying to say to defend Plato? Does it make any sense? Or are you left with...
What's the one main point you're saying? I mean, that's new. What's new?
Well, what's new is the parallel between the Republic and Euripides' play, the Bacchae. That is brand new to the world of Plato's scholarship. I believe Friedrich Nietzsche might have known it, but did not openly say it for whatever reason. But at any rate, this is the first time it has been openly declared as revealed to the public.
So you're trying to draw a parallel between two Greek plays, or you're trying to draw a parallel between the plays and Krishna, or I don't understand. What does Krishna have to do with this?
All right, I'll bring it back to Krishna.
Why do you keep saying Hare Krishna every time you start to sing?
That's a very good point. The two plays, the parallel between the tragic Greek play, Euripides' play, the Bacchae, and Plato's dialogue, which is written like a tragic play, in the sense that it's a conversation between characters, the parallel between them is a literary model of the god who wears disguises and plays these kinds of games. Dionysus, the flute-playing god who returns from India to Greece. Krishna is a flute-playing god who is surrounded by his adoring horde of devotees, the gopis, the cowherd damsels, who are very similar to the Bacchae. My point, in another book, which I did not argue in the thesis that I did for Georgetown University, but I speak about it, but I don't make that case in my defense. My defense of Plato does not depend on Plato being a devotee of Krishna, although I argue that he is a devotee of Krishna, and that Dionysus is his symbol for Krishna. That he could see that this god, who so strikingly resembles Krishna, flute playing, surrounded by these women, that's how you know Krishna. He plays the flute and he hangs out with the gopis. That's his favorite pastime. Headed by Radharani, the female counterpart of Krishna. So that's what this parallel has to do with Krishna. In the first ideal city, Socrates suggests vegetarian feasting in a self-sufficient agrarian community culminating with singing of the gods. That's exactly what His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founding Acharya of the Hare Krishna movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, says is the solution to the evils of the world, to the injustices of the world. If you sing the names of God, if you chant the names of God, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That mantra, he says, is the root of justice. It will open the eye of your soul to the spiritual sun, who is personified as Krishna. Does that answer your question? All right, that wraps it up. I'm getting the wrap it up signal. Thank you if you've actually waded through my ramblings. I appreciate it. Please read the thesis I've written for yourself, and you'll see why I argue that if we all chant Hare Krishna in the street, I know that is not going to be acceptable to many. We'll have a just society. Hare Krishna.